For Pacifica Radio, I'm Christina Onnested. A newly unsealed federal indictment against Donald Trump provides new details about his alleged efforts to overturn his 2020 election loss, claiming he laid the groundwork even before he lost, knowingly pushed false claims of voter fraud, and resorted to crimes to stay in office. Special counsel Jack Smith's team filed the new indictment after the Supreme Court ruled former presidents have broad immunity from prosecution in their official acts, narrowing the scope of the prosecution. The 165-page legal brief cites new accounts offered by Trump's closest aides to paint a portrait of what the indictment says is an increasingly desperate president who, while losing his grip on the White House, used deceit to target every stage of the electoral process. Among new details, Trump said so what to an aide after being informed his vice president Mike Pence's life was in danger by Trump's own supporters who stormed the halls of Congress to stop certification of Joe Biden's election win. The indictment also says Trump refused to acknowledge his election loss in 2020, despite his vice president urging him to do so on more than one occasion. Republican Liz Cheney, one of Trump's fiercest GOP critics, campaigns with Democrat Kamala Harris in Wisconsin today. It's a first stop on a two-day presidential campaign tour in swing states for Harris. On Friday, she plans a rally in Flint, Michigan. Trump campaigns in Michigan today and Saginaw County, a crucial swing area in the state where Democrat Biden barely won 4 years ago. President Biden visits Georgia and Florida today to survey damage from Hurricane Helene. He surveyed damage in the Carolinas yesterday. Vice President Harris in Georgia. They declared support for the states impacted by what's being described as a historic hurricane exacerbated by climate change. Biden spoke in North Carolina.
Nobody can deny the impact of climate crisis anymore. At least I hope they don't. They must be brain dead if they do. Scientists report that with warming oceans powering more intense rains, storms like Helene are getting stronger and stronger. Not going to get less. They're going to get stronger. Today in North Carolina, I saw the impacts of that fury. Massive trees uprooted, homes literally swept off their foundations, swept down rivers. You know, families are heartbroken. But there are also neighbors helping neighbors. That's the other thing. We were talking about coming over here in an automobile. It's amazing when people step up when people are in need.
Biden also said that at a time of crisis, there are no Democrats or Republicans, but Americans, as he pledged aid and directed 1,000 National Guard troops to provide support for hard-hit Western North Carolina amidst widespread devastation. Helene has killed at least 178 people and left thousands without running water, cell phone service, or electricity. Homeland Security Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas says the agency tasked with helping communities recover from Hurricane Helene does not have enough money to make it through the hurricane season. Mayorkas told reporters the FEMA, a federal emergency management agency, can meet immediate needs, but will need Congress to provide additional funds. An Israeli airstrike on a building housing a medical center in central Beirut killed 9 people, according to Lebanon's health ministry. 4 paramedics were wounded and a Lebanese soldier killed while evacuating the wounded, officials say. Israel says the building was Hezbollah affiliated. The strike was not far from the United Nations headquarters, a prime minister's office, and parliament. No warning given before it. The strike comes as Israel continues with a ground invasion in Lebanon against Hezbollah, while also conducting strikes in Gaza that have killed dozens, including children. Calls for de-escalation to avoid an all-out regional war in the Middle East as Israel strikes Lebanon, Gaza, and Syria have fallen on deaf ears. At the United Nations Security Council Wednesday, Israel vowed to retaliate against Iran for airstrikes that destroyed some of its military aircraft, and Iran said peace talks have failed. Eileen Alfandary reports.
United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres opened the Security Council meeting with a plea for a ceasefire in Gaza and Lebanon.
It's high time to stop the sickening cycle of escalation after escalation that is leading the people of the Middle East straight over the cliff. This deadly cycle of tit-for-tat violence must stop.
Israel's ambassador rejected the calls of Security Council members for de-escalation.
We will act, and let me assure you, the consequences Iran will face for their actions will be far greater than they could ever have imagined.
Iran's ambassador said his nation had heeded the pleas of other countries to give Gaza negotiations a chance when it held off on retaliating after Israel assassinated Hamas leader Ismail Haniyeh in Tehran in July. But Iran could hold back no longer after the latest Israeli attacks in Lebanon and elsewhere.
Experience has proven that Israel only understands the language of force. Diplomacy has repeatedly failed.
I'm Eileen Alfandary.
I'm Christina Onnested reporting for Pacifica Radio.